Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about different levels of consciousness. And the one that most of us are in most of the time is being unaware. And being unaware is basically being hypnotized. And that is not the place that you want to be. You've seen acts on the stage, you've seen hypnotists do stage hypnosis. And you've seen the hypnotist pick out, he'll start with the full audience, and he will start some kind of instructions, and people follow. And by that, he can pick out the ones that are the easiest to hypnotize. And then he calls them up to the stage. And then of those on the stage, he does a few more things, and he can see that some of them are the best. And then he keeps those. So he keeps 4, 5, 6 of the ones from the whole audience. Maybe there were 500 people there, and of the whole audience, there's like 4 or 5 of them on the stage. And they're the easiest to hypnotize, so he can really do he can do things with them right away. For example, he can tell somebody that they're, I don't know, a rock star, and then put on music, and then the person will jump around on stage like a rock star. He'll tell somebody else they're a king, and they'll act like a king, or tell someone they're a queen, and they act like a queen. The hypnotist can make people not to see what is there, or not to be able to think of something. I was watching a hypnotic demonstration yesterday, and he hypnotized a lady to not be able to think of the number 7. And so she would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, like that. It was amazing. They can also make you see things that are not there. He had one guy who he hypnotized. There was a broom, and he told the person that broom was a person, and then the hypnotized person danced with the broom and thought he was really dancing with the person, things like that. So you've seen all of that. But what I want you to know is that that's the state that most of us are in most of the time at various levels. Now, it's almost undetectable most of the time. But what I want you to see is that there's just a much better way to be. And so just to give you an idea of what this state that most of us are in most of the time, in other words, we're emotional, we react, and we fall into daydreams, and we imagine. And soon we think that our imaginings are real. You can imagine, for example, that somebody walked by you and they didn't say good morning because they think they're better than you. You start fantasizing about that. She thinks she's better than I. We've all done this. It's embarrassing, but we have a wrong idea about somebody. And then later you find out that she didn't have her hearing aid on. Or you find out that she had just had a big fight with her husband, and he said he wanted a divorce, and she was all upset, and she was walking around like that, something like that. So you see that you totally misread the situation. So that's the state most of us are in. We react, and then we fall into thoughts, into the imagination, or into worry. So let's say worry. So you see, what the hypnotist often does is to get somebody lost in their thoughts. He uses his words to talk and talk and talk and paint a word picture, and the people eventually step into that word picture that they're imagining, and there they are, lost in that word picture. So that's what we do all the time. We get lost in our worries, our doubts, our fears, planning for the future, reliving the past, etc., etc. So it is basically a hypnotic state. And when you're in that state where you are reacting, where you are emotional, where you easily get lost in thoughts, or you already are lost in thoughts. Most of us are lost in thoughts most of the time. In that state, you are easier to hypnotize because you're already hypnotized. So one thing upsets you and something comes along and it can even more easily upset you. And then you fall into it deeper. And yeah, so you see how you can go from bad to worse very quickly. But you don't realize it. You can't realize it because you're hypnotized. And the proof that you're hypnotized, or that anyone is hypnotized, is the fact that they make excuses for what they did, or rationalize what they did, or just have to justify what they did, or look for approval for what they did. The proof that you're hypnotized, that's the proof. So if you do something and then you make an excuse, it means that you were under some sort of a spell. What did you do it for? You don't even know. You did it because you were hypnotized to do it. Somebody told you to do it. You were programmed to do it. And then you do it, and then you make an excuse. So there you have it. But that's not a good place to be, A, because you're reactive, you're emotional, you're basically out of, everything controls you. You're out of control because everything else controls you. If the weather's not so good, it's a gray day, then you become depressed. See, it shouldn't make any difference what the weather is. You should be the same, always the same. Never upset, never angry, always the same, kind of calm, kind of lighthearted, with a twinkle in your eye. That's the way you should be all the time. And if you're not that way all the time, it means that things are getting to you. And the reason they get to you is because you're in this lower state of consciousness.